The opinions expressed on this program are those of the program hosts and their guests and are not necessarily those of WSTU, St. Mary's Episcopal Church, and Temple Beit Chaim. Products that may be mentioned are not necessarily intended as an endorsement. Any reproduction or retransmission of this broadcast is strictly prohibited. And now, WSTU presents a priest and a rabbi. Call in with questions and comments at 220-9788. 220-WSTU. Now, here's your host.
Good morning, everybody. This is Father Christian Anderson and Rabbi Matthew Durbin, a priest and a rabbi, your favorite priest and a rabbi this side of the Mississippi. I am sitting next to the best-looking rabbi this side of the Jordan River, though. Rabbi Durbin, it is good to see you, brother, back on the airwaves here. You are one of the highlights of my week.
Thank you.
And today is a special day because we have an oldie coming back to the show. Frank the Tank. Frank the Tank, the producer, is back on the show. We lost Miggity Mike, but we got Frank the Tank. How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing great. Good to see you.
Can we get a couple sound effects throughout the show today?
I'll see what I can gin up for you.
You know, our previous producer, Miggity Mike, did not do sound effects. And then now our new producer, John, doesn't do sound effects. So now Frank the Tank, you're a guy.
All right. You just
so you jump in,
all right,
buddy. You jump in. So you just had a blessing of a space, and you brought in the rabbi to bless the flagler, right?
Yes. It was a marvelous event. That was this past Thursday, it's previous week, and it was a wonderful experience. And the rabbi was stellar, did an outstanding job, and it made Channel 5 news.
See, there you go.
Yeah.
So for all the listeners out there, just so you know, I am that bad at my job that the Catholic in the room would rather call the rabbi than the Episcopal priest to bless his space.
It was at 8 a.m., right? So, you may have been busy coiffing your hair.
Yeah.
Yes. I do spend some time coiffing my hair. I do. Do you use hair product or no? You don't use hair product?
Of course I do.
Okay, great. I mean, we're in the age of the metrosexual. I mean, we all use, some kind of hair product. Question here for the gentleman here. So my wife's birthday is coming up. Would you book a co-massage? You know, how you can get a couples massage? Mm-hmm. That's the easy question. Mm-hmm. But then the hard one. Then afterwards, would you go get a pedicure with her as well?
Why not? Why not?
I would do the couples massage, but not so much on the pedicure.
Why not the pedicure?
I don't know. I'm not comfortable having people touch my feet.
Okay, so it's not like a masculine thing,
right?
It's like, oh, this is weird.
Yeah,
this is more or less like you're touching my feet. Now, here's a question on a priest and a rabbi show.
All right.
During Maundy, Thursday of Holy Week, for the washing of the feet, you guys do this in the Catholic Church too, right? Do you guys on Maundy, Thursday wash each other's feet?
No.
Really? That's not just an Episcopal thing, is it? I thought we got that from you.
Maybe, probably at one time in Catholic history.
Okay, so let's say that your priest says, let's do the washing of the feet on Thursday. Yeah. So they bring out the tub, you wash one another's feet as a sacramental way of showing humility.
Yeah.
Would you get up and take off your shoes and socks?
I might. It'd be difficult. Yeah.
I like how you said socks though, because Father Anderson doesn't wear socks. So
he's socks.
Well, because we don't wear socks as priests because Jesus didn't wear socks.
Is that it?
So it's not part of our MO.
So let me go back to the couples massage, because I think it's actually really cool. I do.
Our guest right now is figuring out like what the heck is going on in this show.
Years ago, when I was in rabbinical school and I was in Jerusalem, my then girlfriend, now my wife, on Valentine's Day, gave me
shout out to Rose,
a couples massage, which was awesome.
Okay.
And it was
they administered the couples massage, or they bought you the couples massage?
No, she bought couples massage,
but she wasn't the one who administered the couples massage, because that'd be strange.
So for those that have ever been to Jerusalem on King David Street, you have two very major hotels. One, the King David Hotel, which obviously has a long seated history and lots of challenges with it. And then you have just down the street the David Citadel Hotel, which is gorgeous, beautiful. So my wife had said, look, I got this couples massage. Are you okay with it? You know, and I said, well, which hotel is it? And she said, that one. And my heart just melted. I was like, wow. I mean, it was just, it was awesome. So we got this couple's massage, and it was really neat. We didn't do the pedicure though, but it was something that I highly encourage it.
Okay,
it's
cool.
a lot of fun. It's
Okay,
a lot
cool.
of fun.
So my wife's birthday is coming up, and she's 8 months pregnant. So I couldn't do the surprise thing. I really like to surprise my wife with whatever it is, anniversary, Valentine's Day stuff. But now she's 8 months pregnant. I can't just do something because I don't know how she's going to respond. Maybe she's like, I don't want to drive that far or whatever. So originally, I found 2 tickets on her birthday to see. Wait for it, Hamilton. Okay. Hamilton. They had 2 tickets available somehow off the box office, which means it's the cheapest you can get. If you try to get on the street, forget about it. So we were going to go, and it's down in Miami, which means the show's at 8. You get done at 11:45, midnight. So you're driving a pregnant woman home at midnight. Means we get home at 2. We saw Hamilton back in the day, and she is gaga over Hamilton.
All right.
This is how pregnant she is. She said, "No way.
Yeah.
I am not coming home that late. No way. I'm going to be too tired to sit for 3 hours.
Get a room down south."
Well, yeah, but then we got work the next day.
But the amazing thing is that anyone that knows your wife, I mean, you can hear her saying that. No way. No way, Christian.
Just put on the soundtrack. That's all we need. So we're going to go see Miss Saigon instead in West Palm.
All right.
So I'm trying to get her more and more into Broadway. So in any event, so speaking of Broadway, I have no transition.
So I pulled up a sound effect.
See, guys, this is why you come to a priest and a rabbi. We have a guest who's waiting in the wings right now, who's probably just wondering, why did I accept this call from Father Anderson to come onto this show? Because our intro here has nothing to do with what we're about to talk about, which is fine because, we're an eclectic show here. You have a priest and a rabbi. We cover it all. We cover it all from Genesis all the way to Revelation. Revelation, Rabbi, is a book in the New Testament, and it's the last book in the New Testament.
See, we just stop at the end of Chronicles. So.
Right. So you don't go. Do any Jews go past Chronicles? Because in our Bible, the Old Testament is a little longer. No. Okay. And then if you go to Frank the Tank's Bible and my Bible, we actually have even more added to it, which I'm not sure if Philip's Bible has too, because most Protestant Bibles won't have this thing called the Apocrypha. So, there's just, then you get into, Tobit and,
we have the Apocrypha works. It's just not canonized within our Bible.
Gotcha. All right. That's a podcast we did a while ago. So just go look that up and leave a comment. So listen, if you just tuned in and you're like, what is this goofy show that I'm listening to this morning? This is a priest and a rabbi. The first question of the day is, would you go get a pedicure with your wife or your girlfriend or significant other? The phone number here is 772-220-9788. Would you get a pedicure with your significant other? Massage? Probably. Pedicure? Don't know. So, the last 4 weeks, Frank the Tank, you haven't been here. The rabbi and I have been doing a series of shows, a 4-part series, in the spirit of Black History Month, really focusing on what does post Jim Crow America look like, right? And so we've been just gathering and say, okay, so we talked about what was Jim Crow, how did Jim Crow affect our communities, how did we move forward from that? Is there still structural racism that we see because of Jim Crow? Are we better off? So we've had a variety of different guests talking about that. We had priests and rabbis from different cities to talk about how they are dealing with it in places like Baltimore and places like where else? Philadelphia, some pretty racially divided cities. So we want to always look at our local community and how we are doing since we are in a post-segregationalist area. And so to be honest storytellers, as we are as clergy folks, to be learning the stories and knowing the stories of the people we serve. We want to learn more about that. So last week, we had a gentleman who is a Black historian who talked about Hope Sound and the history of the Black history of Hope Sound. This week, we are going to bring on a guest who is also a historian to focus on the Black history of Martin County, but has also lived in Stuart for quite some time, knows East Stuart extremely well. East Stuart is the area here in Florida. If you're tuning in from somewhere else on our podcast, there was a kind of an imaginary but intentional dividing line during segregation. He's shaking his head no, so he might disagree with me. So this is going to be good. This is good for the show. And so now we have East Stuart, which is more of a Black community. And so we are going to bring on Mr. Philip Harvey. He already has a name here. We call him Filippo, El Filippo Harvey. And he is a business owner. You can see his name all over the place when you drive through Stewart and you see Harvey Plaza. That's the man, the myth, the legend, Philip Harvey, the man who regretted coming on the show the minute we start talking about pedicures. Welcome to A Priest and a Rabbi.
Thank you. I am totally excited now. I am ready.
He's ready to roll. We warmed him up.
Ready.
The first thing that Philip Harvey did when he came into our office the other day, when he met with the priest and the rabbi, he showed up with the Treasure Coast Black Heritage book, which already he just totally like shattered this narrative that I've been hearing from folks, from white and black folks, that there is no printed history of African Americans or just blacks in Stewart or the Treasure Coast.
Oh.
That is not true.
Not true.
I am looking at a very nice book, not some like thing that was thrown together. This is a nice book that can be a beautiful gift for anyone. That really, I was reading through this last night. It doesn't miss a beat on really working our way through the Black history of Treasure Coast, the good and the bad. And so there's a lot of it's just a great book. Is by Annie Jackson, Audra Moore, Dr. Hudson, Susan Cohen. And if you get to know and you call in and you can tell us if you would take a pedicure, you might be able to get a free book from Filippo Harvey from this. So,
I mean, I think the biggest pressing question that we're all facing is what kind of coffee do you take in the morning? Because your energy is explosive.
Well, because Philip is here. And Philip he was a tough get, man. I mean, we had to go to a lot of different leaders in the community, and they said, and when I call Philip, okay, and then I'm going to shut up, Philip, and finally let you talk. When I called Philip and I said, listen, man, can you meet with the rabbi and I? We want to do this thing. We want to talk about the Black history of Stewart. And he said, listen, I got to meet with you in person because I want to see the expressions on your face, and I want to know if you're real. That's who our guest is. So, Philip, can you please tell our community just your history here in Stewart and why you're the man to talk about the history, and particularly the Black history of Stewart?
Well, Stewart is the most well-kept secret in the country. I learned that I was living in the most exciting community in the 70s when Willard Scott, Today Show, acknowledged the fact that Stewart was the most well-kept secret in the country, and it blew my mind. Here it is, a celebrity mentioning my hometown, Stewart, Florida, and I live here, and I was exposed to living in the most well-kept secret in the country. Who's who in America lives here? We're living here. 10 or more presidents frequent the area. I grew up here. I went through integration, and I had fun. I enjoyed living here in Martin County. The exposure was great. And if I can, I'll tell some of the well-kept secrets in this community. A lot of people don't like talking about it, but it's been a joyful moment living here.
Now, you yourself, you're a business owner.
Yes, I am.
So when you drive through Stewart, you will see something called Harvey Plaza. What is Harvey Plaza? And I'm assuming that's named after you.
Yes. Growing up here in Martin County, I always wanted to make a difference. And we had businesses on both sides of the track. I mean, we could go to the white community, purchase, buy goods, and in the Black community, you could purchase and buy goods. And as integration came about, changes came about. And so I always wanted to be a businessman. You could talk to people. You can gather information from people, but you can also serve them. And so that was my moment of life. And that's what I wanted to be. I wanted to be somebody who could make a difference.
Now, before you were a businessman, before you decided to buy and start your own business, what were you doing before that?
I was an employee. I worked with the city of Stewart. I wanted to know the history of and how things function around here. In order to have a business, you got to know what people wanted in life. And so I learned, and by talking to other businesses, both Black as well as white, you make people's lives different. And that's what I want. I'm probably getting a little confused now because I'm excited to being on this radio station.
We're more excited, especially the Rabbi and Frank the Tank.
Okay,
I'm okay excited.
But I went to school here and I enjoyed the high school system. That's really changed my life a lot. We got a chance to see how both races function around this community. And my first experience in high school was we first went to Stewart training school, Stewart High School. We made a difference.
Now, that was integrated when you went?
Yes, we were the first group of kids to integrate in Martin County.
Okay, so let's tell us about that. What was that like? The first day, that first year. Was it weird? Was it tension? Was it fun? What was it like?
It was exciting, getting a chance to meet some of the white students that went to that school. We knew each other. We used to play sandlot sports, from football to basketball to baseball. So we kind of knew each other. But when we got in those classrooms and on that campus, they realized we were all the same.
Okay.
We were students and we wanted to make a difference. And athletics changed our whole concept of everything around here in Stewart.
Mm-hmm.
We took a school that was not well known to a powerhouse.
You're talking about Stewart? You're talking about
from
Martin County High?
No, yeah, Martin County Stewart High School to Martin County High School,
mm-hmm.
And we created a winning program.
So before they were kind of a joke, and then once it integrated, now you guys became some serious contenders.
Very serious, in both sports, football as well as basketball.
I'm assuming since you both then integrated, that also allowed for more resources, and all more resources led to more funding.
Yes,
because now you got more people showing up.
We got more people. We went from the Stewart High School to an audience of maybe 200 people coming to a game, to an audience of 1,500, 2,000.
Right.
And economically, that makes a big difference.
So when the Rabbi and I talk about this, since the state of religion is in America is in a place where you do see, I don't know about you see this with temples, but there's churches that have to combine because they just don't have the resources anymore. And then they come together, and sometimes it could be a beautiful mixture and the Holy Spirit is present. Other times, though, there's just some weird tension and we just don't really get along that well on a Sunday. But what I'm hearing from you is you had two schools, a white school and a black school in the same community coming together, and it sounded like this went over pretty swimmingly. Or were there also it didn't go without a glitch, though?
There were some glitches, but during my time, we had fun. The student body gelled together.
No racial tension?
Maybe one or two, not much. We had a winning program of students that wanted to make a difference. Blacks learned that whites were okay and we could do things together. We could sit down and talk and solve a problem. And that made a big difference. And when you got in sports and athletics, a team consists of all the players, and we gel together. We went out to win together, not separately, together. And we learned that you have certain capabilities, and I have certain capabilities, and we learn how to make that work together and to become one. And my experience, we had a winning program.
Right. Sports are a great way to just break down sometimes racial barriers in a community. Or if you've never, I went to a boarding school where I grew up in a white community, went to a boarding school. Now we had a pretty diverse community at the boarding school, and it was the first time living. We were all living together in the same place, so that helped. But just playing sports together, you have a common goal. You want to defeat the opponent, and you want to be good together, and you need to depend upon one another. So after a while, you don't care what the color is, but then you learn from one another, and you become this team. You're unified.
I think it's the unification, but it's also just that sheer sense of pride that you're doing something together that benefits everyone else. I'm just curious to just delve a little bit deeper into that whole understanding that we say in terms of Martin County or even Stewart being, America's best kept secret. What does that mean? I mean, for you, what is, for the area that we live, we work, we play, we love, what is Martin County's best kept secret?
We got a combination of everything. We got a good environment. We got recreational opportunities, and we got great people here. And we communicate. There were problem solved. We had experiences that nobody else had. We had back in the 60s, 70s, 50s, we had our own Florida lottery. And that's the most well-kept secret now. We had a Florida lottery that nobody didn't like, and called a Bolita. And that was a game where people invested, and all people invested that little 10 cent, and we won. We had a way of earning additional monies. And now the state of Florida, now we have a lottery system. But we were exposed to that in the 50s, 60s, and 70s. Fishing, like we have the fishing industry.
Sailfish capital of the world.
Yes. We living here, food. Out west, you could grow anything. And it was just a nice place to live.
So let me ask you a question. Have you ever lived anywhere else?
Yes.
And where else have you lived?
Miami, Georgia. But I have to be around the water. Me personally,
Right.
I got to be around the water. I can't go inland. And I just can't function. So I got to be around the water.
All right. So we had Lloyd Jones on last week. And so when Lloyd Jones was talking about the history, and he did express and talk about how there is, living in a post-segregationalist area, that there are still, that his take was that, and if you haven't heard, you can just hear the podcast and go on iTunes and listen to his interview, that in some ways, and correct me if I'm wrong, Rabbi, we're not better than what we were before from a racial harmony perspective, that things are not better today in 2020 than, let's say, they were in the 60s or 70s, that we still have some issues with redlining, that we still have issues with of a structure that is still grounded in the ideas from Jim Crow and not allowing equality and equal justice and for people to move forward, including generational wealth, which I know we're going to talk about on the show. So do you agree with that?
But it's interesting because you also had mentioned previously that there may be some in our communities that say, well, racism or discrimination doesn't really exist anymore. And
which are usually white.
Yes. And I spent a lot of time thinking about that. And then part of me says, for those that use that opinion, are you fully aware? Have you opened your eyes enough to be able to see that it's not the case? Are we better today in 2020 than we were back in the 1960s, or even previously before then? And a part of me that I think we have transitioned. I think that we, in some semblance, are a little bit better than where we were. But I think it's like that adage that says one step forward, two steps behind.
Sure.
Are we any better now, living in a more open and a more conversive society, or are we still guarded in some way? And I think we still are guarded.
So to the gentleman who has lived here his lifetime, and so again, we had a gentleman who has lived here for quite some time last week, African-American, who said that things are not better. What's your take on Lloyd Jones's take that things are not better? Do you feel the same way? Because you here just in the last 10, 15 minutes, you seem pretty optimistic, and that about the past and our current status as a community here in Stewart from a racial perspective.
Well, to be honest, I don't accept the word that can't. No, I don't accept that word. I don't believe in that. If a man can do something, that means I can do the same thing.
Okay.
That's the way I was brought up. Out through my family. I was never told no. If I was told that, then you got to tell me why. And then I got to know what are the things that are stopping me from doing what I want to do.
Okay.
So knowledge is power. So I go get the information and find out, and then I make a difference. That's me personally. You can't, if my mind is set up, I'm going to do what I want to do, but I'm going to get all the facts, everything that I need to accomplish my goal. And that no is kicked out. That's me, persistence. You cannot tell me I can't do a thing. That's been all my life. I went to high school. I played a position in sports. I was a quarterback. A black man as a quarterback? Oh, no, you can't. A black boy, whatever you want to call me back then in high school. You telling me no? No, I'm just as good as this guy. And I made a difference. But I did what I had to do to perform, to get that position. I worked hard.
For you, the acceptance of being a quarterback, given your experience. I mean, was there pushback to it? Was there resistance? Was there just unity that came together? What was that like for you?
Again, as an athlete, you're a team. I could perform the same task as this other person can, but if I could do it better and we gonna win, put me on the field.
But was there a time where a coach or someone said, you could tell that you were about to be passed up just because people weren't accepting yet of a black man being the leader of the team, of being a quarterback? And you had to just keep on fighting and fighting. Said, no, I'm better.
Yeah, I kept fighting. I didn't, we needed to do something to win. Like I said, everybody knew everybody's position, what everybody could do. If he could do it better, put him on the field. And that's what I believe in. And I made my fellow players understand that. We're here to win together. If a man can do something better than another man with confidence, let him go forth and make that difference.
Do you think we as a community, though, here in Stewart, when you're talking about just overall race relations, are we still struggling to see each other as equal human beings, children of God?
Yes.
And do you think that some of the inequality comes out of the history that we have in this country and the structures that were done during Jim Crow?
Correct. Because some people don't see the same vision as you see. And you got to make them understand. What you see is totally different from what I see. I have to deal with that in the business world. I want to do certain things. I've had the opportunity to work with the city of Stewart and saw how it was growing in the late 70s and how we made a difference at 10th Street Recreational Facility. Now,
when you say that, how we made a difference, what does that mean?
The community trying to get the city hall, local government to understand that's your future over here. Kids playing, and the white recreational facility was on the river. Kids can't go out there and play because you got to deal with hazard, water. Kids fall in the water, this and that. But you got 10 acres or more over on 10th Street that you can develop softball fields, you can develop football fields, you can develop soccer fields, and look what is established now. Look what's over there now.
So what I'm hearing from you, and we're about to take a break here, so I want to go deeper into the second part. You are a person who sees opportunity. Instead of when someone says no, or there's a wall that you hit, you don't go to despair or you don't go to frustration. You say, okay, where is the opportunity for growth here? So we got this rec center over here that's hazardous, and then we got black kids over here or in this community, and this would be really good for the community. So instead of saying, we need a rec center, you're saying, here's a great opportunity. You got all this open acreage for the kids to have a safe place to do sports. We know the power of sports to form leadership and team quality. So let's dig deeper into the second half of the show. We're going to go into this idea of building generational wealth, because you are a person who is a business owner, and some people would say that it could be challenging at times as a Black American to purchase land or to buy, to be a business owner, to build a business and to develop and to buy housing, to build that generational wealth. That is one part of post Jim Crow is that you're seeing this lack of generational wealth within the Black community. So let's go deeper into that. Your thoughts on that, and where we see that here in 2020, if that's still an issue of building generational wealth, particularly within the Black community, and does our structures today inhibit that or promote that? So we'll be right back here on A Priest and a Rabbi. Welcome back to A Priest and a Rabbi. We are continuing the fourth part of our series, part 4 of 4, as we're talking about post-Jim Crow in America, particularly here in Southeast Florida. And this is in celebration of Black History Month. The Rabbi and I have been bringing on a variety of guests to talk about everything from post-Jim Crow America to also examining what are the structures today that still could be a layover from Jim Crow. And then today, though, we also want to talk about the hope and the opportunity that's before us. And so our guest today is Philip Harvey, aka Filippo Harvey, and he has come onto the show. And in the first half, we talked about his experience of being here in Stuart, Florida, which is great because it's different from what we've heard from other guests. As a young Black man growing up, he was part of the first class to be integrated at the high school here. So, Philip, a big piece of what we talk about and from post Jim Crow is this: Jim Crow did not allow for Black Americans to start building generational wealth. So the American dream was stifled for them, as opposed to, let's say, their white counterpart who could buy homes, who could go to colleges. I mean, you could buy homes in colleges as a Black person in the 50s, 60s, 70s, but it only could be in a Black zone or historically a Black college or university. So if you were not given those same opportunities, then the development of generational wealth will be limited. Buying homes, investing in stocks, selling that home, sending your kid to college, et cetera, et cetera. So what is your take on that as 2020? Do you see that there is still this big gap for Black Americans, and particularly in our community, of really having a good sense of generational wealth, of building generational wealth, of having a knowledge of how to build generational wealth?
Yes. Right now, today, the educational system does not teach certain things, civics, certain math that deals with everyday life. So that has been taken away. Before integration, there was segregation. Blacks had their own homes, building their own community, invested in their own community. So they knew a little bit about generational wealth, planning a future, buying land for other family members. Integration came about, all that changed. that motivation, that pride of being a homeowner and all that kind of changed. The federal government came in. It changed a lot of things. And
now, why did it change? Because the first part of it you said sounded good. So during segregation,
segregation, it was all about your community making a difference. We had our own little small mom and pop businesses that learned about that empowered economics, learning how to use money the right way, how to buy things for the community, invest into your community, baseball, sports, how baseball made a difference in our community.
And people were buying homes.
And trying to bring more people into your community. They invested. They had entertainment. They had social events. They had all that. Their kids went to college. They learned about. They went to college. They learned about professional skills from business to medical to whatever.
So you're hitting the hallmarks of generational wealth. You're sending kids to college. You're buying homes, right? So they're invested. You have wealth that you're investing in. So then what? So how does that change?
You have to have knowledge of wealth, how to earn, how to.
Was that knowledge there?
Yes, it was there. It was all set up in the community. People who went to college, they came back and told us about various things. There were people who graduated from college who made a difference, who earned jobs. And one of the most things that inspired me to find out about Jack White. Jack White, I'm kind of lost for words now. Jack White was in the medical field. I can't think of his name now. The man who invented plasma. I'm sorry for going blank.
Joe Plasma.
No, it wasn't Joe Plasma. Oh man, and I'm sorry, I'm lost. But Jack White was from Martin County. He went to school here.
I'm assuming Jack White was white.
Charles Drew. I'm sorry. The plasma who helped invent plasma. The technique of using plasma in the medical field. Wars were going on, and we had to learn about various things like for saving soldiers' life, the blood.
Right.
But Jack White participated with invented that procedure. And I'm sorry for going blank on.
This is great.
He was from Stuart, Florida, and that motivated me. Because now you know somebody who made a difference in the world.
A Black American.
From
Stuart.
Mm-hmm.
So let me ask you this question. So this all sounds good. Now, did anything change during integration? Like you're saying now, before it sounded like there was a
integration came about, the history, civics, all the things that you needed to plan a future in your life, for your future, getting educated, motivated to go to college. All of the steps that you need to go to college, to advance your education so you can go out there and become a professional with a professional education and come back and get involved in your community. That change.
So why did that change? Change for the better or change for the worse?
Change for the worse.
Why did that change? Why did it change for the worse?
Because the educational system changed. There was a new way of educating people. Algebra, for example. Algebra. A lot of kids, when they brought about that algebra thing, a lot of people did not understand algebra. But if you want to build a house, what math are you going to use? Algebra. But you got to learn how it affects your life.
Okay,
so we don't know how to do square footage.
We're on the radio right now. If you're just tuning in with Philip Harvey, and the number here is 772-220-9788. So Philip Harvey's taking on this thing. What changed during integration? So the name of the show is the economics of integration. So Philip is making an interesting point here, and I encourage you to call in if you have a take on the 772-220-9788. That actually integration, you're saying, might have hurt. And the development of Black Americans to understand better generational wealth and having that knowledge of what it means, because they weren't so self-sustained. They weren't like in a community before. Tell me if I'm trying to reflect this back to you. If you were segregated, you had a self-contained neighborhood where you really had to take care of each other, get the education. You had a mentor. You learned about wealth. You learned about buying. You went to historically Black college. Then integration happens. The walls fall down. And then it And then you say it might have hurt that development and that
Yes.
knowledge base. By the way, we just had a caller who said it was Charles Drew. Charles Drew. Thank you, whoever called in. God bless you. The rabbi sends you love. Okay, so go ahead. So
But-
it's a,
Exposure is very important. So like I said, education, kids going off to college, this and that, and bringing back professionals back into your community, you're exposed to many different things. You learn that he made it in life, and you in turn can make it in life.
okay.
So if you don't have that professionals coming back into your community, we stopped. Integration came about. We did not receive any more educators. The number of Black educators declined
Because why is that?
because they couldn't get the job in the school system. The school system didn't want to hire. They did not go out and recruit Black educators.
Well, before a Black educator could find a job easily at a Black school.
Yes.
But now since all the schools are integrated, there was mostly white teachers.
Yes. You have to go out and recruit from Black colleges. There were not many Black students going to Division I schools or the white school. They were going to predominantly Black colleges, Florida A&M, Bethune-Cookman.
So you
And it's
saw a little bit of a
decline
of a Black flight almost.
Yes.
As opposed to all the great Black minds all being together in one area, because during segregation, I think here you showed us yesterday that it was Zone 7. That was the only place here in Martin County that Blacks could buy property and set up businesses. So
Not the only place. That was one particular area in the city of Stewart.
okay,
But we had other areas. We had Indiantown. We had Hope Sound. We had Jensen, Tick Ridge. And you don't know about that.
I don't know, and I don't want to know about ticks.
Yes.
Don't. I have a couple
But that
parishioners struggling with.
But that's
Lyme
the
disease.
most everybody wants to live there now. That's on by the Savannah River.
But that used to be a zoned out just for Blacks to purchase.
Yes.
Okay.
But also incredible to when we had met the other day in terms of how many businesses were actually demarked and used, as opposed to today, which is much smaller in
You
number.
said East Stewart had 67 businesses.
Yes.
67 businesses.
Yes.
So right now,
We
I
have
think
a
you can count it
commercial-
on one hand how many businesses there are in East Stewart.
Correct. Right. You know, we
Two
had-
hands. Two
our
hands.
community was zoned correctly. We had a commercial area and we had residential area. Hope Sound has a commercial area and a residential area. Indiantown. We all had that. Our forefathers, the people who came here, in the 20s, there were Blacks here in the 20s. Stewart, the area of Booker Park, of that community of East Stewart was, what do you call it? Oh God, I'm lost for words again.
It's the rabbi. He
established-
intimidates all of us. He intimidates
was
me all the time.
established in 1913. The city of Stewart was 1914. We were chartered in 1913. That community. Now, who did that? Some Black men got together, went to Tallahassee, and got chartered. So our community started. And those men were motivated. They wanted to make a community, and they did everything. They followed the rules. There were many retired judges, attorneys, professional people who lived here on the river, on the water, and they communicated together to make a difference in this community.
All right. So what has happened now? So we're at 2020, because we can't say that, because one thing I could pull from this conversation is saying, well, we can't just go back to segregation in order to help Black communities grow.
But-
So where is, if you're saying that because of integration, there was a little bit, it diluted the amount of Black thought, Black leadership all in one area, which allowed communities to be sort of entrenched in knowledge and generational growth and wealth and all the stuff. So since that was diluted because people went all over the place, where are we at now? Where's the hope now for you, if we're saying at one point, and this is our context, I'm talking about here if anyone's listening from like Wichita, Kansas, we see a community here, East Stewart, which at one point sounded like a bustling community, a bustling Black community that had 67 businesses. It was thriving. And then integration came. And is it safe to say that since integration, the arrow, it has not had the same growth?
Yeah. You got to have the 3 E's: education, exposure, and opportunity to do things. If the kids are not educated, they're not exposed to professionals, and then where in turn they see and they get the experience of seeing those people, you don't grow.
Mm-hmm. So for now, what would be your recommendation? You are a leader in this community. What would be your recommendation for if those resources are being limited to, let's say, in East Stewart, where we see the largest, well, at least in this immediate radius, largest congregation of Black Americans, whether it's Caribbean, whether it's African American. So this is our context. What would be a step to say, all right, how do we start to build that kind of mentorship or knowledge, that exposure, that education, and that opportunity?
Repeat that again.
So what is the next best step, let's say, to help build that education, the opportunity and the exposure?
We got to start looking at our future, our kids, looking at the potential of them. Let me give you an example. A kid is born. We live in a modern world. Technology is moving very, very fast. A kid is born. You give him you teach him how to eat. He gets a bottle. He learns how to eat. But at the 3 months old to 1 year old, what is he looking for now? And I'm moving fast, but the kids see you on this technical thing we call a telephone. Mm-hmm. This is called a telephone, but it's more than a telephone. But that kid see you using that. That 1 year old kid will pick up this phone and start playing a game. And I'm very sure each one of you all have experienced that. How does he know how to use this doggone thing? His brain, his genes are kicking and moving fast. And he can tell you how to use, and you are an adult with a college education, and show you how to go places on this thing that you've never been before. Exposure. He sees it. So now you got to look at that kid. He's talented, and you got to not just look at him as a kid, you got to look at him as what next for him? What else can he do?
So how about this? What if Philip Harvey leads a series of business ownership workshops at the 10th Street Community Center or at the Flagler, where
I'm liking this already.
Frank the Tank is, booking events there, of teaching generational wealth or business ownership to young and hungry entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
Building for let's say high schoolers.
Yes, I'm doing that. I have a wife. She's passed away now. We had a program called Building Bridges to Youth.
Okay.
And that's what our goals were.
So you already got this?
Yes.
Oh, I'm 5 steps behind you. Okay.
And we've been trying to expose
dealing with a quarterback here.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I'm on the bench saying how I just want.
We have been trying. She's passed away, but we've been trying to expose people into your children are the future. And if you don't don't look at them as being bad. If they don't have anything to do, they know how to get into a lot of things. We've had an experience where
I know I've been on the rabbi's daughters.
Kids can take this phone right here and make a video of anything you want. Can make a video, sing songs and all that. But think about it. If they had a computer and they had the equipment, what else could they do? We could assign them to do certain projects, and you'll be surprised what they are exposed to. But this is what's happening in major cities and all that.
Sure.
But you got to invest into your future.
Well, Philip Harvey, I wish we could continue on where we're near the end of the show.
And that creates generational wealth.
So my hope is that sounds like you already have the structures in place, and forgive my ignorance for not being aware of even the structures you put in place. So any way that the rabbi and I, that the temple and the church and other churches can be a part and to be a resource to help with creating and developing the programs for our youth. It's particularly for teaching generational wealth. I did a little research before we got on the air of just how it doesn't matter if you're white or black, the limited amount that our youth see, our understanding about how to build generational wealth, and parents not sitting down and saying, this is how you set yourself up well for the future, how you make choices today with your job, and how you put money away for this, put money away for that. That needs to be told, and by the community, particularly if there's communities where there wasn't the opportunity for that. During if one race was limited and even having the opportunity to do that. So even more so, these things need to be taught as a value. So Philip, thank you so much. And thank you so much for the Treasure Coast Black Heritage book that you gave us. So if you all want to really learn about the great leaders that have happened in the Treasure Coast, pick up one of these books. Where can they pick this up?
Philip Harvey, contact me.
Contact
you. Now, because you have my and
yes.
I'll share.
Go to Harvey Plaza, visit him. So thank you, Philip. Thank you so much for being on the show. And we look to maybe see you out in the community and any way that we can assist and be with you and how you support and lifting up the future generations here in Stuart. I think it's awesome. So thank you for giving your time and dealing with me, a goofball, and with a very serious, focused, smart man, the rabbi.
Well, it's because you're a third string priest there.
Third string, yeah. I'm at least it might be yeah. I would say third string.
But as we take this moment, and again, thank you for your involvement and certainly all that you've done within our community. We do have a very special program coming on Sunday. For those of our listeners that are interested and do have the time, I hope you will join us Sunday at 1:00 on the Roosevelt Bridge. Please meet on the north side of the bridge. We are going to march in solidarity for the elimination of discrimination. So if you are impacted by racism, if you are impacted by discrimination, certainly for us, we see the ugly, ugly side of anti-Semitism. We are joining together. We are proud that St. Mary's has joined us and St. Joseph's Catholic Church and many other church organizations to eliminate discrimination. That is 1:00 Sunday at the Roosevelt Bridge. I hope you will join us in solidarity. And finally, for us as a community, we live here, we love here, we play here. Please, let's stand united together as we as a community say, not in my backyard.
Not much I could say after that. So God bless you all. Come visit the rabbi at the temple. Come visit me over at St. Mary's. Come visit Philip over at Philip Plaza. We will see you next Friday here on A Priest and a Rabbi.
Oh, they didn't sound like not in my backyard. Like I don't want